What's up, State Champs Nation? You know what time it is. It's time for the football forecast. This is the high school football preview show here in the state of Michigan. My name is Lorne Plant, joined as always by Matt Mowery, Scott Burnstein, and of course, Sean Baligian. What's up, gentlemen?
Not much.
Great to be here. Let's get this weekend going, huh?
That's
Love
right.
it.
We're not even in September yet. We've
I
already
know.
got 1 week under the belt. We're going into the second week, and it's kind of, it's show me time now.
Absolutely. We got a great podcast for you. Again, you can watch this on our website, on our YouTube page, Facebook, Twitter. You can also, of course, hear it on all the audio platforms, including SoundCloud, whatever it is that you love. And again, please interact with us. You can send us emails. Go to our contact page at statechampsnetwork.com if you want us to talk about a particular topic or a team or preview something. But what we do here on our Thursday show is we want to give you a preview of what to look forward to as far as the weekend, what we are kind of thinking about, what we'll be covering and talking about on State Champs TV as well as other platforms. We also want to talk about our Hungry Howie's Mr. Football race because we do have a change, and we're going to have Alan True come in at the end, and we're going to do a recruit report and talk about some of the guys and what's going on as far as their recruitment and what is happening. So I do want to mention our sponsors real quick. We're presented by Lawrence Technological University. First game in 70 years, first game ever played in Southfield in terms of college football will be this Saturday. That is September 1st in the afternoon. I think it's a 1 o'clock kick against the Oakland Golden Grizzlies, so we're excited about that. And there are several local kids on that team, including Kolka. I think it's Tyler Kolka, who was the quarterback at Chip Valley a few years back, if you remember him, and other players as well. They got a lot from out of state, a lot of Florida kids actually on this team right now, and that was because, again, when he came in, it doesn't have the roots in recruiting here in
Nothing
Michigan.
wrong with building a pipeline out of Florida.
That's right, exactly.
You don't have to excuse having a lot of Florida kids on your
exactly.
roster.
So we're expecting big things. All right, the MHSAA is also a big sponsor of the podcast, and Hungry Howie's. Thank you so much to them. Go to MHSAA.com, and if you need a fundraiser, go to Hungry Howie's. Go to doughRaiser.com. That's a website. Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser. Easiest thing you can do. Paper. You just sell paper certificates for pizza. You can raise a lot of dough, as it says. All right. What I want to do is first let you know that at our website, which is completely redesigned. We're incorporating our Indiana and Michigan there, but you can, of course, filter out if you just want either state. Matt Mowery has got his top 25 rankings up there, so they're there. He's got little capsules connected to it, so consume it that way and let us know what you think. There is, of course, a comment section at the end. I'm sure we'll get some as people as people start checking it out. But I thought it was well done, and in fact, I know that Belleville's going to be happy they're not number one because they don't want to be number one until we drop them to number 2. But let's start with Lakeland and Warmont. These are two teams coming up this, I think it's Thursday, that are both 1-0. Lakeland crushed Wall Lake Central 45-0, who's still on the mend, still trying to come back. It's been a while since Central's played some significant football. And, Waterford Mott just hammered Milford 41-0. In fact, I have a friend who has her daughter in the band for Milford. She's like, it's 35-0 here in the second quarter. This is
They pulled
bad.
their starters in the second half. And, these are two of the top teams in the LVC, and Waterford Mott won the LVC last year, shared it with Wall Lake Western. Lakeland had a really kind of came out of nowhere last year to go 7-2, and they were picked in the preseason poll, the preseason coaches poll. The LVC, Lakeland was picked as a co-favorite with Wall Lake Western. Waterford Mott was second, and it's going to be a great game, and it's at Mott, and Chris Farr, a lot of controversy around him. Since he's got there, love him or hate him, there's no disputing that he has injected life and energy and excitement into football at Mott in a program that really had not much of a history. And you go there on a Friday night and it's buzzing.
Oh, there's no doubt.
And
there was a lot of controversy, regarding this or that. But I'll tell you what, he has made a statement. And the one thing I do respect about what he's doing is he's all about Mott, and he pounds his fist. He is unapologetic for it. And again, I think that for that community, they really love it.
They've embraced him.
They've wanted a football identity for a long time. And when you're in a city as small as Waterford that has 2 public high schools, it's going to be hard to kind of just, really stake your claim. They've done that, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, and I saw that Lakeland team play against Walled Lake Central.
Yeah, you did.
It was hard to tell what exactly you were getting because they had 3 short fields in the first 3 minutes of the game. I mean, they were up 21-0 before Central had run their 5th play from scrimmage. They recovered an onside kick. They, got a muffed kickoff. So it was really hard to tell. And then they started, putting stuff on tape as you do if you're a coach. And they were running swinging gate. They were running wildcat and just kind of experimenting a little bit.
Right.
And, their big back, Dakota Meyer, who had 3 touchdowns and 160 yards-ish, 1 carry in the second half. So it was a similar situation to Mott, where you're not really certain what you have from these teams because the games were so lopsided in the first game. But yeah, it's going to be a dogfight, and I think both teams are ready for that. And
I will say, Sean, too, it's kind of nice now that the KLA was so spread out, so big, and these guys, it was kind of hard for them to develop rivalries in a way. I don't even know if we had Mott playing Lakeland all that too often, and they're not that far apart. Right. So the fact now you've got, like you said, the LVC, the Lakes Valley Conference, they're all right there, and kind of like the Downriver League in a way. Yep. You've got all these communities now each year battling for bragging rights.
Well, and it's great because I think this is a good measuring stick for both, because as both these guys said, there's nothing good that can come from those first week of games from perception. Because, the routine. If you win big like they both did, well, you're supposed to. You're supposed to. If you have a close game, then people go, ooh, what's going on with fill in the blank?
Sure.
And if you lose, well, then the sky is falling. So this is going to be a good measuring stick for both of these teams.
Absolutely.
Lakeland had, you mentioned Dakota Myers, and you got Robbie Tracy. You have a hustle and flow backfield there that both went over 1,000 yards last year. So, the rushing attack is going to be formidable. You got a head coach in Joe Woodruff, who's really one of these guys that you don't hear praised as much as you probably should. This is a guy that's won everywhere he's been, whether we're talking Michigan, he's been to Florida, he's been to North Carolina. I know he just came back, this is his 4th year now at Lakeland. He's got this, this is the senior class now, started with him as freshmen and, really trying to come into their own right now. So that's exciting. You move over to the Mott side and you just got playmakers all over the ball. All over the field.
Yeah.
Guys like Kobe Myers that came over from Walled Lake Western. He's got an Iowa offer. He's a playmaker. Marcus Guerrero, one of the most underrated running backs in Metro Detroit. He had a big game against Milford. On the other side of the ball, defensively, Luciano Padini is a great linebacker and an emotional leader for that defense.
One of the greatest names in high school football, easily.
So it's going to be exciting. I'll be there tomorrow.
Sweet.
So, for Waterford Mott, it's getting a little vengeance for last year because the only reason they weren't outright champions was because they slipped against Lakeland, but they beat Walled Lake Western, who they shared the title with last year.
Right on. All right. Our main event this week is going to be a Thursday matchup in Belleville. And so, again, we have put Belleville at number 2, which they're very happy that we have done. Jermaine Crowell has insisted he does not want to be number 1. No. They had to have a comeback win to beat Brighton. But again, we talked about the fact that they are now in a conference, speaking of conferences, that they're going to play tough games. Well, they've got another one this week.
They got a target on their back like they haven't had it in a long time, since maybe the Gold brothers were wearing the Belleville uniform back in the 90s before they went to Michigan, and then Ian went on to the NFL.
I think a lot of the teams out there heard some of the rumblings that Belleville was going to come in and they were going to be the new sheriff in town. And I think they took it personal. I don't think there's any question about that. So Churchill's a darn good team. They had a darn good win. This will be a good measuring stick for Churchill. There's no doubt about it. I'm sure they're not looking at it that way. But for maybe getting the brand out there and saying, hey, long gone are the days of us not winning football games. Sure. We're a totally different program now for 20-plus years. This is going to be a good measuring stick.
And you can't come off any higher than beating Canton in Canton,
no question,
in week 1.
Right. And if you want to look at the balance of that conference, and if people want to say, with the newcomers, Belleville and Dearborn-Fordson, a 9-win
Dearborn
team
too.
And Dearborn, that it's in the East, and Canton has always been. That margin at Canton's now in the West, but that margin between the East and the West, even though you have the power teams in the East, not very big. I mean, a Howell team put a pretty good challenge into Dearborn-Fordson at the Big House, and Brighton and Canton. It's all right down the list. I mean, these are going to be dogfights in this conference, and the new coaches know that, and they love the fact that they're going to be in for a dogfight every single week because it's going to test them.
Yeah, and Scott, that's the best recipe for Belleville because they're looking beyond, right? They had a great postseason last year, but if they're tested all year long, they're going to be ready for the playoff run.
Right.
Yeah, and last year, they had a great regular season and then just, couldn't put it all together in the playoffs.
Right.
I think they lost in the district final.
Right.
And, this is the year that it's got to all come together because with the kind of talent they have up and down that roster, can go up against anyone in the state, maybe anyone in the Midwest right now in terms of, college recruiting. And they got a really nice quarterback in Christian Dewey Reed. And then, just take a name out of a hat and you got a blue chipper. So
yes, absolutely. So yeah, big up front. They've got great speed on the outside, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that one plays out. That's our main event, which you'll be able to watch on State Champs, 9 a.m. Sunday on Fox Sports Detroit. Let's move on. Let's go to the game that's going to be at Birmingham Groves. Number 6, Oak Park, going to Groves. Obviously, Groves gave West Bloomfield all they can handle, like Brighton did to Belleville. Oak Park had a really nice win against Utica Eisenhower at the PKC on Thursday. And again, a team that, I would say, probably look back at tape and said, all right, we got some things we need to work on, but we also have some things that we do really well, and it starts with the big man under center.
Yeah, I think Groves is going to test Oak Park more than Ike did. I think they've got, obviously on the sidelines, you got Brendan Flaherty, who's done an outstanding job of building that program over the last 20 years. You got Khalil Dawsey, who is going to Harvard, who made his name last year as a cornerback with 8 interceptions. He made his move over to the offensive side of the ball back in week 1 and looked outstanding. And then you got a new quarterback in Marcus Alexander, who's looked really good. Over at Oak Park, obviously, Dwan Mathis, the Ohio State-bound field general.
So tall.
Justin
so
Rogers, the five-star blue chipper on the line offensively, but then defensively, we talked about it last week, has moved to linebacker, playing middle linebacker, quarterback in that linebacking core for a guy that's 6'5", 300 pounds. You don't see that kind of agility normally from the big nasties.
Because he doesn't look like he'd move that well.
No, he doesn't. But, he was going sideline to sideline like he was, 6'2", 210.
Yes.
So, it should be exciting. I don't know what the status of Toriano Richardson is or Oak Park starting tailback that was out in week 1. But, when you got a guy like Phillip Stewart that can step in and run for 175 and a handful of touchdowns, you're in pretty good shape.
They didn't lose much without Toriano.
Right.
It was clear that they were on a mission last week, and this is one of those things we talked earlier in the season about. This may be the season for Oak Park to put all the pieces together. When you do that, you got to kind of take that week by week, and you can never have, Groves this would not be a tremendous upset if Groves won this, but these are the games you have to win. You have to win the ones that you should win, or the ones that are going to test you. And this is one of those things that Oak Park has got to continually get better and continue to just put notches on the belt.
Yeah.
And they shared a league title last year. Groves, Oak Park, and Harrison all shared the OAA white.
Correct.
So, it's a battle of defending league champs.
And historically, Greg Carter's teams want to run the ball. He loves his quarterbacks running the ball. He likes big quarterbacks running the ball. But again, likes kind of the scat back style. There's one at Tennessee, right? That's still.
Well, no, Johnny Kelly, who's actually Toriano Richardson's brother. Johnny Kelly's in the NFL now.
Wow, that's right.
He got drafted. Redskins, possibly Rams.
Right. Well, but again, Johnny Kelly very much like what he has in his backfield now.
And he was an all SEC running back, and just the definition of power and speed combination. Johnny the Machine Gun Kelly.
Well, and this is Matt, like you said, this is you have to take it week by week type of situation, because week 1 is that situation I think every coach loves. That when you can have a teachable moment in a win, everybody wins. And that was, Lorne, we were there. They looked like they were going to run away, and then all of a sudden that lead dissipated, and they got it back. They controlled. Make no mistake about it. They were the better team. But that's a good learning moment, one that is probably going to help them out in the long run, too.
Yep, no question about it. All right, we're going to go down River. Should be a good matchup.
Johnny Kelly's with the Rams.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I knew it was an R team.
Yes, and
Redskins,
of course,
Rams.
you're always going to get a true crime nickname when you can in Machine Gun Kelly there. So if you miss that, he lets it lets it fly with the best of them. Again, we're going to go downriver now. Should be a good game. Wyandotte and Woodhaven getting together. Wyandotte has been, for the most part, the class of the conference for several years. But again, whether Taylor was giving them any sort of a unified Taylor High School now. There's no more Truman and Kennedy. It's one. Didn't matter. 56-6 was the end result of that one. But Woodhaven beating Carlson week one is a good win. They put up 49 points. Carlson has had a lot of great athletes over the last few years, including a Mr. Football candidate last year. And what was it, Jalen?
He went to Wisconsin.
Yes.
We're blanking on his name.
I can't. Yeah, I want to say Kennedy, but Jalen something. Anyway, he was great, and you know who it is. So, what do we think about this one? Two teams want to know. Matt,
this is one of those where obviously, with, like you said, with Carlson giving a test to Woodhaven. Wyandotte we're not real sure about because obviously, you play one of those teams that unifies, and those always have some problems meshing early on, and obviously with a lopsided score. But this is going to be one of those that just kind of sets the table for who is in the driver's seat for the rest of the way. And if you win one of those early and you put yourself in a position to be the leader, that's putting money in the bank. I mean, that's one of those things. And when you get the matchup between the two favorites, I guess, so to speak, in a conference this early on, it's kind of hard to build the drama, certainly, but when you are the one that wins that game, that there's a lot to be said for having that early lead in the conference race.
And Woodhaven's got to be feeling good about themselves. So the one thing, and you guys know this, going to games down there is a cool experience.
Yes.
It really is. Yeah. I've always felt that there's just a little something extra in the air. And I think Woodhaven's going to be that. I mean, I think, we're going to be looking at this since, like you said, how much did we learn in week one? You get a 50-point win and a 14-point win. We're going to be looking at this one with some intrigue to see if it writes the story the rest of the way.
Yeah. Jalen Franklin.
I know, exactly. We both had to look it up. So he was a Mr. Football candidate. Can't believe I didn't think of his name.
And he was a jack of all trades. He did everything.
He
and
did.
now Ian Stewart over at Carlson has kind of taken his place as a guy that can play wide receiver. He can play running back. He can play linebacker. He can play safety. He can play quarterback.
Yeah, for sure.
Who I really just shout out for the Bears and Ron Adams. Sophomore quarterback Jalen Pitchford. This is a kid that's going to be a star, and I think he is someone to really look for over these next couple of years.
What's his first name?
Jalen Pitchford, and he's a dual threat quarterback, and he's got a big arm and he's got wheels. Yeah. So it'll be exciting to see his progress over the next couple.
Well, one of the things, and Tom Markowski and I had this conversation for a long time, is the fact that the Downriver League does not play anybody outside of their league. So when they get into the playoffs, more often than not, they'll usually have to play one of their own in the district. So that'll be a second time. And oftentimes they don't get much further outside of that. So the question is, you want the division to be strong. I know Trenton is better this year as well. So
Trenton looked really good down at the PKC. They got a quarterback, Jay Solano, that threw for 2,000 last year and threw for over 300.
And Allen Park is always a team that historically has been great. It's made it to as far as the state final. So we want this division to be good since they don't play anybody outside, and that was kind of the bugaboo that we always felt. But we'll see what happens in that one. Let's go back to the OAA. West Bloomfield and Clarkston getting together. This is a rematch of the 2017 Division I state championship game.
With a baseball score of 3-2.
Yeah, it was really awful.
It's a strange,
from a fan's perspective
game.
Because we just were looking forward to this shootout that we didn't get. And so we'll see what happens.
It was a huge upset.
It was. Both teams are 1-0 coming into this one. You saw Clarkston. West Bloomfield was able to pull out a pretty good
pulled away in the second half from Groves.
Yep, exactly. And so what are we expecting to see in this one?
Well, I don't know if it'll be a baseball score. It may be a high-scoring baseball score. I mean, that's what Clarkston's going to have. Right. That ideally, if Kurt Richardson could script out his season, he would have every game be 4 or 5 points. Yeah.
Kind of like last week, 12-9, right?
Yeah, exactly. And he's going to pound the ball. And I think both of these teams, working in new quarterbacks, you kind of got to see a little bit of them, and they got to get their feet wet. But I don't think either of them really had to do as much as maybe they may have to do in this game to kind of take the load on their shoulders. I mean, certainly Jake Jensen did a lot of handing off as he will for most of the season. But this is really going to be a test, I think, of those two quarterbacks for the first time, to see which can kind of make the plays that makes the difference in this game, so to speak.
Well, if you're Ron Bellamy, you've circled this date a long time ago when you saw the schedule come out.
Like the day after
the day
the state
after
finals.
Yeah, and he sat his playmakers down, i.e. Trey Mosley and those, and said, guys, you're going to remember that state championship loss for the rest of your life. There's nothing you could say about it. You were disappointed. I was disappointed. And, you can only learn from that and help you grow as a human being. All the life lessons that we learn. But you've got a chance in this game to make an emphatic statement that our offense is not going to be stymied by what they are not going to dictate what we do on offense. They're going to have
Which
to
is
react.
exactly what happened in the state finals.
Yep.
So I got to imagine that West Bloomfield has got a package that they've had just waiting for this, whether they even use it the rest of the year, to do whatever they can to really put points on the board and show that they've come to play.
Two things. How great is it that we get a matchup of this magnitude? As you said, we're not even in September yet.
Yeah.
I mean, this is lovely. Second thing, they hear everything that we're saying, that fans are saying. Sure. Matt, like you said, if you were a betting man, you take the under 20 on this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They've heard all that. Lauren, I think you make an astute point. Some kind of trickeration, something to get those horses going. And they've got the horses. They've got those talent players.
Yes.
I think there's going to be a wrinkle or four out of the Lakers in this one.
I can tell you right now the Clarkson fans are saying, why do you got us at 9? We're the state champions. What do you know what I mean? So we've already got that because we definitely get it in basketball, that's for sure, when we had Skyline #1 for most of the year. And they're still rubbing that one in.
But all that matters is what happens at the last game of the season.
These aren't the teams saying this. These are the community, because these are strong communities who love their football. And I think what the Lakers, the West Bloomfield faithful, are just really they've been kind of tossed around a little bit over the last few years. Put up Tristan Jackson, and we're going to do this, and then they've kind of
they've
gotten to the mountaintop. Now they just got to get over it.
I mean, before Ron Bellamy got there, West Bloomfield, to say they were an afterthought, it was kind of they were not a thought.
Yeah, they were not.
They were someone. They were a program that had only made the playoffs 2 straight years, and the idea of contending for state championships was couldn't have been further from the minds of anyone involved with that program. Or pundits that were covering that program. Now they're in a position where they're a team that has a target on their back every year. They're a team that is always going to have college-level talent on both sides of the ball. They have a coach in Ron Bellamy who played at Michigan, played in the NFL, and the expectation level is always going to be very high. That's the way they want it. Coach Bellamy said to me, I went from a point where when I got to this program, if we lose a game, the kids would be thinking about, okay, where's the party?
Mm-hmm.
Where are we going tonight? Now we lose a game, and I got kids, crying in the locker room, and in some cases inconsolable, like in the state championship game.
Oh yeah.
So, you just adjust, and it's a progression. It's taking steps towards being able to fulfill those expectations, and
Well, where do you feel the next step is now? Are they
the next step is
the
next step is making it to the state championship and winning the state title, right. And with the kind of talent they have across the board, those are what the expectation should be.
Well,
when you have players, 6, 7, 8 players are going to play power conference football.
Exactly.
We're not talking about Division I football. We're not talking about playing in the MAC. We're talking about playing in the Big Ten, playing the SEC, playing in the Big 12, playing the ACC.
That's right. And they've got a football coach who did play big time Power 5 football.
So they got a new quarterback in C.J. Harris, kind of getting his footing in week 1. They got a sophomore tailback in Donovan Edwards that is just about to blow up. Had 3 touchdowns in that week 1 victory. Already has a Michigan offer. Trey Mosley, we know about, the wide receiver, going to Michigan State. Tyrone Broden across the way from him on the other side, another split end who didn't take many snaps last year. All of a sudden, great offseason, has 10, 11 Division I offers. And then you go to the other side of the ball, maybe the best linebacking core we've seen in a decade, if not more, when you're talking about Lance Dixon, the All-American, going to Penn State. Cornell Wheeler,
he had a great game.
The middle linebacker, who's just a tackling machine and has a slew of offers. And then Makari Page, who plays kind of a safety outside linebacker hybrid. And so does Lance Dixon. They run that Viper.
Yeah.
And Dixon and Page kind of split that role. So when you have three playmakers in the middle of your defense like that, the expectation should be Ford Field or bust.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got West Bloomfield ranked number 5. Let's go over to Orchard Lake St. Mary's as they travel to East Kentwood. Orchard Lake St. Mary's usually in the first couple of weeks not afraid to go to the west side of the state. I remember a few years ago, that was probably more than a few years ago, and I think it was 10 years ago, but it was they went to take on Peter Sturzman's East Grand Rapids Pioneers.
There was a period of time. I think there was a period of time when they went like 3 straight years to open with East Grand Rapids.
Absolutely.
4 straight
years. And it was great because they've had some unbelievable state finals.
They had
the greatest ever in the 5 overtime.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So Orchard Lake lost to Dakota. No shame in that. 20,
they play
24.
tough. They play tough, though.
Yeah, 2 lead changes in the last 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I think they had a chance.
And I was expecting Dakota to win that game by 2 touchdowns.
And nobody's talking about the Eaglets this year, so I'm sure that's exactly where they want to be. East Kentwood lost to Mona Shores. Again, Muskegon Mona Shores came out and played a really, really good game, 148-38, but they put up 38 points. Yep. Obviously, we know the talent that East Kentwood has in the trenches.
On the line.
Yes, it's huge. So this is going to be very interesting. They're going to want to get back on the winning track. Orchard Lake St. Mary's, again, not afraid to go on the road and punch in, clash with the best of them. So this is an intriguing matchup.
I've seen Orchard Lake St. Mary's play these kind of schedules for a few years now, and you know what? It's the old adage, they're better once the Catholic League play starts. I mean, you've seen it. You've seen them progress many times over the past
because
few
of their
years.
to competition.
To me, that's what I see, because
Yeah.
I remember, I think it was a couple of years ago, I saw them one time early in the year, and you're like, oh my goodness, this is really. And then by the end, what happened to this team?
Yeah.
I mean, really,
Right.
it's a situation like this. This is a good game for both of these teams, because I think they're two teams that they're not going to be panic-stricken. Oh, no, what are we going to do if we fall to 0-2? But with that being, nobody wants to be 0-2. So that's what makes this an intriguing match.
George Port's still there, right? I always wait for the day I hear George Port's not there. He's one of those guys that, unlike the Max and the Fracasas, though, Port's still there.
He's just not on the bench on the basketball team anymore,
right?
Which he led for 20-plus years.
Right,
and won a state championship.
Yes,
and he won a state championship as a lacrosse head coach.
Yeah,
right.
So
three sports, 3 state titles.
Yes,
exactly. Multiple state titles in football.
Exactly.
But we talked about it, I believe, on last week's episode when we're talking about the Catholic League Central. It's one of the only conferences where a team can be 5-4, get into the playoffs, and have a legitimate chance at raising a banner.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
it's the only conference.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Orchard Lake did that a couple years ago when they entered 5-4.
Yeah.
Last year, Catholic Central entered at 500 or 5-4 and went to the semifinals.
Yeah. There was a 4-4 year one year, I remember.
One of Rice's three-peat state championships was a 5-4 team, I believe, or a 6-3 team that went in there and won a state title. So, you don't, for bang for your buck, you don't get much better than the Catholic League Central. Orchard Lake St. Mary's right now, like you said, they're breaking in a lot of new talent, replacing guys like Caden Priestcorn and Kyron Cunningham that led them to that last state championship a couple years ago. Yeah. And those playmakers that are stepping in for them look pretty good in week 1. Josh McCarty, Cam Arnold, and then under center they brought in a wide receiver from last year. I'm going to butcher his name, Anthony Enchukwu. I apologize, Anthony.
Yeah, exactly.
But really good wide receiver last year.
Send us the phonetics, please.
He's a junior, very athletic, about 6'2". He can run it, but he also showed his ability to throw it last week. So it will be interesting them heading over to the east side of the state.
Absolutely, and on the other side again, Logan Brown and Maisie Smith. Fantastic.
Not to mention the juniors in Bryce Mostella and Dallas Fincher.
Yeah.
Well, and we said it last week that just like West Bloomfield's linebacking core is kind of a once in an every 10-year type thing. That lineman unit for East Kentwood is generational.
Yeah. Well, I think both of them are. We mentioned earlier they're coming off losses that maybe they thought they should have won or could have won, and for East Kentwood, we've talked about those lines. There's got to be a point of pride where somebody else took the ball and basically shoved it down their throat like Mona Shores did.
Yeah.
And with St. Mary's, we've talked about their tradition. Everybody knows who they are. Correct me if I'm wrong. They're coming off their first losing season, I think, since '08.
Yeah,
It's been a while,
Yeah.
and they want to erase the sting of that as quickly as they can. And I think they had a legitimate chance last week, and now they go on to another winnable game, but you're not going to win every single Catholic League game you have. So if they want to have a winning season and back into the playoffs, they're going to have to start piling up at least 1 or 2 wins here outside of the league.
All right, well, we got a few more we want to get to here before we get to our first timeout, so we'll kind of speed it up here a little bit. Grand Rapids Catholic Central, they beat Muskegon Heights. Not sure how much you can put in that, but they are the state champs. 42-14 is a thumping.
But Saline hung in with Chip.
Yeah, exactly. Saline fell to Chip Valley. We've got Saline ranked 19th in the state right now. 31-26 was the final in their loss. Saline, obviously, a program that is always right there, and you can say that now. It's been a decade almost that
Coach Palka.
Definitely his era.
They were up 13-0 in that game, even, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
So what do we think here? We've got Central, scheduling a good game, coming out here to take on Saline. Do you think that Saline has a chance in this one?
Of course, they have a chance. They're the home team.
Yeah.
You always like when you see teams from different parts of the state matching up early in the year. So you got the Grand Rapids area coming into the Ann Arbor area. It's a toss-up in my opinion. I mean, I don't really see either one of these teams being a go-away favorite.
That's a good loss. I mean, I know coaches hate to hear that, but we in the media, we reserve the right to say it. I think that's a good loss last week. And Saline, that's a build. I don't want to say teachable moment because it happened in a loss, but that's a building block, and they know what GRCC is all about. And I wouldn't be stunned if Saline won this game. Would you guys?
No,
Not
that's what I'm
at
saying.
all.
No. Well, we'll do our predictions here in a little bit.
Okay.
So we'll see where I fall in those. I've been doing pretty well lately.
I'm gonna wait for you to
Yeah,
predict.
yeah, exactly. All right. So we've got number 14 Granville. Again, talk about a good loss. Really gave Clarkson all they could handle. Lost at the Big House 12-9. They are coming to Wayne State.
Two good losses. If you want to start talking about good losses, that's two teams that had good losses in week one.
Yeah, absolutely. De La Salle fell to Muskegon 36-1. I have a feeling De La Salle is going to come out and really just be fired up for this one at home. So I think they're going to give Granville all they can handle. I think this is going to be the game that is not as close as maybe it would be on paper. Sure. But what do you guys think?
Well, in the one part of the game for the Granville defense that sincerely did not get tested last week was the pass defense. And with De La Salle having a good passing game, I mean, you might see some long passes to DeBerry this week that you didn't see that kind of attack last week that they had to. So, I mean, really it's an unknown of whether or not they'll be able to handle that. But I think this will certainly be a more wide open game. They would like to play more the Clarkston style. They run the wing where they've got the handoffs going in all different directions. But I think they would like to keep it close to the vest, whether or not De La Salle allows them to stay that way. It just depends, I guess, on how that early chunk of the game goes.
And you mentioned Josh DeBerry, and he got behind the Muskegon secondary several times in the last game and had a couple of nice long touchdowns. I think you're right. They're going to air it out, and they're going to say, all right, Granville, go and get it, because Josh is a really nice playmaker.
They can run it, too, with Jacob Dobbs, who's a great linebacker, but he's also one of their top rushers. Mm-hmm. And they got Danny Matowski, who's going to Central Michigan, that road grader, clearing the path. So
yeah. All right, we got one final one we want to make sure we get to. Of course, this is, I would say the game in the state.
Premier game for week 2.
No doubt about it. We've got Martin Luther King. We've got him ranked 3rd, taking on number 4 Muskegon. Obviously, those who were at the PKC saw King really do a number on East St. Louis. Again, if you're not familiar with East St. Louis, they're one of Illinois' power teams. So for second year in a row,
weren't the most friendly hosts,
right?
They, sent them back to across the border to Illinois with some bitter feelings.
Yeah, no doubt about it. King still gave up 38 points in that to win. They just put up 52. So at what point, how much you could take away from that, we shall see. Again, East St. Louis is a good program. Muskegon, we know. We saw what Cameron Martinez was able to do once he got into the secondary in De La Salle, and he just made him miss quite often. And
don't forget about on that defensive side of the ball, Alavante Wallace, their linebacker. They're kind of the quarterback of the middle of that defense.
For Muskegon.
Yeah. And he's a kid that I'm surprised isn't getting some more recruiting attention right now. He's got, I think, a handful of offers, Division I offers. But in my opinion, he's a kid that's really under the radar in terms of recruiting profile. And I think as the year goes on and that Muskegon defense builds momentum, you're going to see Alavante Wallace really asserting himself and imposing his will.
Well, you mentioned Cam Martinez breaking into the secondary and then using his speed to pull away from people. If there's one spot on that King defense that is maybe most impressive, you got 4 D1 players in the secondary,
led by
Marvin Grant. Yeah. And if you set him up in a spy situation and you tell him that's your guy there, who knows if that maybe curtails a little bit of, maybe those 60-yard runs are 7-yard runs, and that makes a huge difference when, if you can get into the secondary and pull away from people or if you can't.
All right, I like it. We got to wrap this up here. Let's do this. Let's do our predictions, and let's get there. Let's start with the game we just talked about. We'll work our way backwards real quickly as we head to break. King Muskegon. I'll tell you what, I really kind of went back and forth on this as I was really trying to think about it. For a lot of what you said and a lot of what you said, I think Muskegon's defense is actually undervalued maybe a little bit at this point, and think that, DeQuan Finn had, an amazing game of his life. Well, you know what? We've got a package that's prepared to deal with his running game.
Do it again. Let's see if he can do it again.
But when all is said and done, I really believe that Detroit King is the team to beat in this one. I think they will go into Muskegon and they will win.
I'm with you there. I think the one difference right now, Cameron Martinez only had to throw 1 pass left. I think he's going to have to throw more than that this week. So I'm going to go with DeQuan Finn as well. I mean, that was just so breathtaking. I think it's going to be a close one. Flip a coin, but I'll go with King.
Yeah. In fact, I like what that Mona Shore score, that 48-38. That's where I'm looking at this one.
I'm going to go with Muskegon. I mean, until further notice, until you get knocked off. I mean, they've got as much talent as most D1 teams in this state, and they were impressive last week.
Absolutely.
I'm going to stick with King. I'm going to say 34-31. I think it's going to be a close game. I really think the X factor in this game is what Sean said. Is Cam Martinez able to drop back and exploit
when the run game's not working?
Yeah, and exploit seams in the passing game.
Wow, I love it. M&M is the outlier on this one, so I like that. All right, Grand Rapids Catholic Central at Saline. I'm going to take Saline at home.
I'm with you. Saline at home.
Even though I talked to Catholic Central, and I like them. They're the state champs, and I like it, but I'm going to take Saline at home.
This is another one of those streak games. They haven't lost in 21 straight, and I'm going to have Grand Rapids Catholic Central winning number 22 in a row.
Okay.
I'll take GRCC, keeping the streak alive.
All right, there you go. Orchard Lake St. Mary's at East Kentwood. This one I think is going to be very close, but I'm going to take East Kentwood at home just because they're at home.
The home factor, that big line, I think they wear them down in a tight contest. I'll take the Falcons.
I'm going to have to be contrarian again.
Nice. That's great. I love it.
Go with St. Mary's.
All right.
I'm going to take East Kentwood, and all due respect to Georgeport and Eaglet's Nation, I think this is going to be a 2-score game. I think East Kentwood's going to win by at least 10, 14 points.
We shall see. We'll play this on a loop if we're wrong. West Bloomfield at Clarkson. I am not picking against Clarkson until they lose. So I don't really care who's coming into their house. I'm taking Clarkson at home.
How can you? I mean, really, but I'm still going to take West Bloomfield.
Okay.
I really am. I'm still going to take West Bloomfield. Again, this has been circled. Yeah. This is 8 months, and I'm going to take the Lakers.
Yeah, I think the motivation factor for West Bloomfield is just going to be too difficult to overcome if you're Clarkston, and I think West Bloomfield's going to slip out of town with a very closely contested victory. I'm going to say 28-24.
Okay. Wyandotte at Woodhaven. Again, in this case, I'm just going to go with Wyandotte, the team that I think really is going to end up win that division and maybe go undefeated again, like I think they did last year.
Bears.
Yeah. Team Adams. Yeah.
All right. Oak Park and Groves, this one in Birmingham. But I'm going to, from what I looked at Oak Park and the way that they were able to kind of take, like Sean had mentioned, the fact that they went up, then kind of lost their way for a while, and then got it back. I'm going to take Oak Park pulling away late.
This is a good Oak Park team. I think they're going to fulfill maybe the destiny that people felt that they should have fulfilled the last few years. I'll take Oak Park.
I'm going to go Oak Park as well.
Oak Park wins on a last-second touchdown. Dwan Mathis to Malik Carr, who had a quiet game in week 1, who I think is going to have a breakout game in week 2.
All right, Livonia, Churchill, and Belleville. This is our main event. I like this matchup. I think Churchill could very well surprise them. And again, until I see Belleville in this version of Belleville, it's going to be I think I'll know more once I can watch them play, but I'm taking Belleville because I think maybe perhaps, like you said, as far as what's going on with Oak Park and they're making their next, I think this is Belleville's turn. Like you said, it's now or never, and these are the games you got to win. So I'm going to take Belleville, although I think,
me time.
But they won last week at the last second. I don't think it's going to be quite like that, but I think it will be within 10.
Tigers at home. I like the Tigers at home. Churchill, this is a great opportunity for them, though.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really a golden opportunity. Can you imagine knocking off these two teams back to back? I just don't think it's going to happen at Belleville.
I have Belleville number 2 in the state,
Yes,
number 1
I know
in
you
this
did.
game.
Yeah, okay. Number 1 in your heart.
I'm gonna go up down. I'm gonna go up down theory on this one. Even though Belleville won, I would say that was a down game.
Yeah.
Churchill was very up when they upset Canton.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go the other way around. Belleville's gonna win this game, I think, by 10 points.
Okay, there you go. All right, finally then, Lakeland and Warren Mott. We talked about this one at the top of the broadcast. Again, Warren Mott. Waterford Mott, excuse me. I had Warren Mott on my notes. So there are 2 Motts in this area. Lakeland, Waterford Mott, I think it's I'm going to take Waterford Mott in this game.
I'm going to take
That's
Mott
it.
too. I
Okay.
think it's going to be a close game, but
Yeah.
Mott, that home field advantage is going to be the difference.
I'm going to take Mott as well.
Okay. All right. So we're I think
It's going to be a nice.
Was that the only one we were in full consensus?
I think
except for
Belleville.
It's going to be a nice
Okay.
contrast of styles.
All right.
The smash mouth attack by Lakeland and the more kind of freewheeling finesse attack of Mott.
All right. Well, thanks for hanging in there.
I don't think we did Granville De La Salle.
You know what? I don't.
I think we
You're
skipped
right.
it.
I don't think we did. You're right. Good. Thank you. Number 14,
Yeah.
Granville at De La Salle. We've got De La Salle, what, 7, 4, 5, 4? I didn't put
4 or
it on
5.
here.
Yeah, in the middle.
Yeah, okay. Well, Kings 3, Muskegon's 4. I bet they're 5.
7 maybe.
7.
Because Oak Park 6.
Okay.
Bloomfield
All right.
5.
It's all right. Whatever it is, it's going to
Have to look
change
it up.
after this week.
Yeah.
I have a feeling. Granville, De La Salle. I'm going De La Salle.
De La Salle at
without
home.
question.
Pilots.
I'm going to go De La
Yeah.
Salle as well.
That Wayne State Adamsfield
it's gonna be nice.
mojo is going to
Yes.
pay dividends.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, remember you can watch a lot of these games on our television show, State Champs. Check it out Sunday at 9 a.m. on Fox Sports Detroit. We're going to take a quick timeout. When we come back, it is time for the recruit report. We're going to move Alan up in the schedule. We're going to talk to him next. We've got a handful of guys, including some of the ones we kind of already have alluded to and teams that are having big games this weekend. So stick around. The recruit report is next.
My passion is architecture. I don't want to sit around passively studying. I need to create. In our architecture studios at Lorne Tech, we collaborate with students, faculty, and professionals from around the world. And from day one, we design using the same industry standard software that architecture firms use. I really feel like I'm designing my own future here. Lorne Tech. Possible is everything.
Today, we'd like to talk to you about football rules changes for the upcoming season. The biggest rules change in high school football across the country this year involve player safety. When any required player equipment is missing or worn improperly, an official's timeout shall be declared and the player must come out of the game for at least one down. This includes players not wearing knee or thigh pads or rolling their pants above the knees and equipment such as shoulder pads or back pads being exposed. The other change continues to hone the definition of a defenseless player, this time affecting the quarterback once he's thrown the ball and becomes a passer. Until that time, he's defined as a runner, and as a passer, he continues to be defenseless until the pass ends or he moves to participate in the play. The penalty for hitting a defenseless player is 15 yards. For more information about football, please visit the MHSAA website.
You ready, Darius?
Let's do it.
Anybody want an autograph?
Autograph? We're here for the stuffed crust pizza.
Stuffed crust pizza? Hey, who do you think you are? End of the line, pal.
Flavor fanatics love stuffing their faces with our stuffed flavored crust. Get one for only $2 more on any large original round pizza.
Hungry? Howie's!
All right, welcome back to the Football Forecast. Every week on the show, we have the Michigan Student Aid Recruit Report. I'm Lorne, this is Sean, that's Matt, this is Scott, and the guy on your screen in the corner there with the very nice state champs backdrop is Alan True of 24/7 Sports. What's up, Alan?
Hey, guys, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Best in the biz.
Yeah, man, we love having you here. In fact, it was funny, I was talking with Steve over there in Indiana, Will Fong, your associate, and he talks very highly of you. He's like, I will never be as good as Alan True. I go, well, you know, it's hard to knock down the king. He's the king. So, but
you guys are trying to blow my head out here.
I know. Well, you know what? We appreciate what you do, Al, because, you know, for so many guys out there who, you know, follow recruiting but don't realize the, you know, I mean, Steve was telling me he writes 100 stories a week. You know, when it comes to recruiting. So, I mean,
Alan has to cover the entire Midwest. He has to, you know, have his finger on the pulse of, 5-6 states?
I just took over Missouri too long. So
wow. Right. Yeah. So, all right. So he's not getting a lot of sleep. Yeah. No, I hear you, brother. So let's get into some happenings right now. Some guys. Jalen Graham. Tell us what's up with Jalen.
Yeah, we talked about Darius Robinson last week. Jalen's kind of the other top senior that's still hanging on out there that's uncommitted right now. He said last week that he was still looking at taking some official visits. It sounds like Iowa State's going to get one. Purdue's going to get one, but not until December. He's going to take another official to Purdue before then. I like the Boilers right now, but the Cyclones are right there. He's still looking at Missouri, Kentucky, and Minnesota as well. But if I had to guess, I think my educated guess is that it'll come down to Iowa State or Purdue.
And just to clarify, he's being recruited at the college level as a safety, right?
Yes, he is. And he started out as a quarterback at Country Day, and he's playing quarterback for Cass now. But I think, you know, with that size and his speed and his ability, safety is going to be this, maybe even outside linebacker at some point. That's a big kid. And you saw him last week. Didn't have to do a ton in that game against River Rouge, but you saw some of the glimpses of that physicality and that speed that schools like him as. Maybe even a hybrid kind of guy, that Viper that Michigan plays, the Rover that a lot of schools have. Now, I think that's what Jalen might be at the next level.
All right, I lied. Actually, Alan is coming to us from the surface of the moon. So if we do get a few solar flares that jump into the conversation, it's all good. We're just gonna go with it. Alan, Devil Washington's a guy that we had in our top 10 in our Mr. Football race, which we're going to talk about next. We pulled him off just for now because Cameron Martinez just went so crazy last week. But again, the Bay City Central wide receiver has got, I'm sure, a lot going on in terms of recruiting.
Well, all of a sudden this summer, he went from having a couple offers to, you know, all of a sudden he had Michigan, he had Notre Dame, he had Ohio State. He's a big-time prospect now, and they're going to play Mona Shores this week. I'm going to be at that game, interested to see how he does against a really good team there. He's going to visit Ohio State. I think it's going to come down to probably Ohio State and Michigan, although Charles Rogers is his uncle, so I think Michigan State's still in that picture as well.
Right on. Will Johns, I will say that you stumped Bernie here.
I consider myself a recruiting guru, and I did not know who Will Johns was.
Right, but we quickly looked him up and realized he was the Brighton quarterback who turned some heads.
Yeah, don't feel bad about it. I think a lot of people knew who he was going into last week. Brighton or Belleville certainly knows who he is now. They raved about him, and they went as far as when I saw those guys this week to show me some film of him running right past the defense that has a bunch of D1 guys on it. So 6'3" plus, 195 pounds, can really run. Got a couple offers, Olivet, Nazarene, and Butler, but I think the thought is that he can be more than that. A couple of MAC schools have started to reach out. There was a kid from up in Petoskey a few years ago named Joel Wilson that ended up signing with Central Michigan late in the process as a quarterback athlete kind of guy. I think Will is very, very similar. If he can't play quarterback at the next level, which I think he can, but if he can't, 6'3", 195, that fast, he could play linebacker, he could play tight end, but that Belleville game certainly put him on the map, and we'll see what he does the rest of the year here. He could be one of the big risers this season.
Well, yeah, well, again, I think Brighton might just be one of those teams that we're talking about as as we get to the end, just based on what they did last week. So we'll wrap it up, and you've got to help us here. We're wondering, is it like it says? Is it Sincere Dent?
Sincere Dent, that's what it is. I think the joke last week was that he put a sincere dent in East Kentwood.
Oh,
boom. That was coming. 5 touchdowns in that game. Well, I saw him last year. He was a good player last year, but obviously it's going to turn some heads when you do that in week 1 against a team like Mona Shores. Picked up a Fair State offer on the heels of that performance. Tony Anise obviously knows the Muskegon area very well. So came in and offered Sincere. They rave about him over there. I think he's got a chance to pick up some more offers. It's not really a running back heavy state for recruiting this year. If you look around the state of Michigan, not a ton of running backs getting recruited. So I think there's room for that, a guy like Sincere to have a big season. Obviously, it was a big loss for them to lose Damari Roberson for the year. I think Sincere's going to step up in that place. They're going to be maybe more of a running team. And I'm going to be there this Thursday when he goes against DeVille Washington in Bay City Central. But I think that kid's going to have a huge year. He's kind of a sleeper right now, kind of like Will Johnson, I think has a chance to, by the end of the season, everybody's going to know his name.
All right, good. Well, you can give us an update then when we talk to you next time right here on The Forecast. Alan True, 24/7 Sports. Follow him on Twitter at Alan True, TRIEU. You won't regret it. So thank you so much for being here, man.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, AT. Take
care.
care.
See you soon.
I want to be a dermatologist, and though a lot of universities tried to recruit me for basketball, Lawrence Tech had the science curriculum that I wanted. LTU's Southfield campus is a great place to learn, and the classes are small enough that I don't have to wait for office hours to talk to my professors. They're usually right by my side, challenging me and guiding me toward a successful future. Lawrence Tech. Possible is everything.
Fundraising should be fresh, flavorful, and simple. We have the perfect solution at Hungry Howie's, Dough Raiser. Your team or school can sell paper pizza certificates that can be redeemed for 1 medium pizza at participating locations.
Hungry Howie's makes it easy. It's just a little mini pizza box, but we make lots of money, lots of dough.
Go to doughraiser.com to learn more and sign up. Your next fundraiser comes with flavored crust. Welcome to Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser.
All right, welcome back for the final segment here in this week's Week 2 football forecast. I'm Lorne Plant, joined by Sean Baligian, Matt Mowery, and Scott Burnstein. We just heard from Alan True giving us our recruit report, and what we want to do now is get into our Hungry Howie's Mr. Football race. If you listened or watched the Extra Point podcast on Monday, we talked a lot about the performances out of Week 1 and what our guys did. We had to get together, and we felt, of course, we had to put Cameron Martinez into our top 10. There just was no way around it. He deserves it. In fact, we had thought very, very seriously about putting Austin Brown.
I was campaigning hard for Austin Brown.
And I was too.
You know.
And here's what I want to say. That would have happened because we, again, this is how we do it. We kind of put our lists and we debate and all that. But you fans have a say in that, and you put the stop on that because you Walled Lake Western fans said, no, Sam Johnson needs to stay in this race, and you believe in your guy, and we tape this on Wednesdays, so he already had about 1,000 lead over Jaron Mangum, so he is in. So,
and I'm sure Sam will bounce back.
Absolutely.
He's a kid with a really good head on his shoulders, and is just one of those kids that's always motivated to keep pushing. And I think last week was an aberration.
Yeah, I agree with that. So Sam, you are still in, and Walled Lake Western fans, he is still in. And again, the leading vote getter can never be removed from our competition, and that's kind of how we do it. So congratulations to him. Congratulations to Cameron. As I said in the piece before, Devil Washington is coming off as of right now. But again, this is a fluid competition. It's very much like the Heisman Trophy race, which, everyone's high about one guy being a Heisman candidate one week. The next week, he's completely off the list. So we don't quite work it that way. We do have a watch list as well. I'm going to quickly read our top 10 and our watch list right now because, again, we have a couple of changes. Our top 10 right now, Jaron Mangum from Cass Tech, the fine running back. Dwan Mathis, the quarterback out of Oak Park. Daquan Finn, the very fine quarterback out of Detroit King. Tate Halleck, who had some big plays in Forest Hill Central's first game. Roderick Hurd, the running back out of Farmington Hills Harrison. He had, I think, at least 2 scores.
150 yards.
Yep. Trey Mosley out of West Bloomfield is still in our list. He could be one of those guys that's on the bubble if he doesn't do something big time.
When you're a receiver, you're kind of at the mercy of your quarterback situation.
Right. So it's going to be interesting to see what we get out of this week. Julian Barnett, we talked about him earlier in the show, the fine cornerback, and he runs the ball too for Bell.
No, he's a wide
receiver. Yeah, okay. And he had a really good game in the first game. Jerron McKinney, who was really the playmaker for River Rouge, if you happen to see any of the highlights against
he
Cass
made me
Tech.
a believer, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I look at this kid as someone that he's going to Northern Illinois. I would not be shocked by signing day if he's headed to the Big Ten.
Yeah, had a touchdown kickoff return.
Had a 95-yarder callback, but then he had a 55-yarder from scrimmage that counted.
He set the record last year, right?
He had 12 returns.
Yeah, unbelievable.
7 kickoff returns, 6 punts.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, he had a
I can't count.
7 and 5.
Yeah,
7 and 5.
He had a Panther escort on that 55-yard run, which was kind of fun. Cameron Martinez is now in the mix of Muskegon quarterback. Big test this week against De La Salle, so we'll see. As we said, can he throw the ball if he has to? He only had to throw it one time last week. I think the King defense is going to force him to do that. And again, they've got some very fine playmakers in the background. Sam Johnson, again, the quarterback, still in our watch list. Steve Walker, the Canton running back. Canton did lose the first week. He did have a good game.
Yeah, sure did.
And so we'll see how that plays out. Jordan Anderson from Harper Woods, the running back, defensive back. I did not get stats on the game. They won very handily. But he's a guy that I think still needs to be on our watch list. Marvin Grant, the aforementioned safety at Detroit King.
Going to Purdue.
Could have a huge game this week and really, again, change the complexity of that game against Muskegon. So we'll see how he does. Austin Brown, again, he's right there. Would have been in. Definitely. We'll see. Who does Madison have this week? Do you know offhand? I do not. Just kind of throwing it out there.
It's a MAC school.
Okay.
I'm blanking on it right now.
All right, so we'll see if he continues again. Talk about a monster performance.
And it was only one half.
Yeah, exactly.
130 through the air, 115 on the ground.
Yeah,
and just had his way with center line.
Just didn't stand a chance. And Keegan Kohler. Who
beast mode.
Yes, who was unbelievable in his first
He's one
game.
of these guys that, you were talking about how the list is fluid. This is a guy that wasn't on anyone's radar 7 days ago, and now, could be on the cusp if another couple performances like that, if not maybe just one more performance like that, jumping on into the top 10.
And I didn't look who Catholic Central have scheduled, but
they're going across the Ohio border to play Lakewood St. Edward.
Okay, well, there you go. They always have an out-of-state game. They always have to have several because a lot of times schools
they play Toledo Whitmer this year.
Yeah, they just don't want to schedule them in a lot of cases. So, again, if they throw away that whole 6-win you're in thing, it's going to change a lot of things. This is my personal crusade, but we'll see what happens. But Keegan Kohler definitely deserves to be on the watch list. So that is our Hungry Howie's Mr. Football top 10 and watch list. You can vote for your guy right now at statechampsnetwork.com. Vote as often as you like. It's up there on our brand new redesigned website. And you can, of course, then reach out to us if you think there are guys that need to be a part of this race. You can tweet at us, of course. You can make comments on the Facebook page. You can email us on our contact page at statechampsnetwork.com because there's guys out there, quite frankly, that we miss, that fall through the cracks, and we want to check them out. And this race is for everyone. And remember this is not a senior award. This can go out to a freshman if he's dominating.
Just like the Heisman.
That's right. So if there's a kid out there that's making hay and you want us to take a look at him, we will do so. So we also want to mention that the Anvil Award, our first ever lineman and linebacker award, this is for offensive linemen, defensive linemen, linebackers. We just took them out of Mr. Football, felt they needed their own competition. We've done that. The list is now live. And in fact, Lance Dixon is doing quite well already in the voting. He had some Mr. Football voting that transferred over. He's got well over 1,000 already. And I know the Berghorst contingent out there in Zeeland country is also voting heavy for Adam, and that vote will come more. So we've got our list, the Anvil Award top 10 right now. Justin Rogers of Oak Park, the junior offensive guard we talked about. Logan Brown out of East Kentville, the offensive tackle. He's a senior. Devontae Dobbs, Belleville senior, the offensive tackle. Anthony Bradford, the senior offensive tackle from Muskegon. Lance Dixon, the senior outside linebacker from West Bloomfield. Carson Barnhart, the senior offensive tackle from Paw Paw. Michael Fletcher from Flint Carmen Ainsworth, fine defensive end, is a senior. Rook Orohoro from River Rouge.
Atta boy.
Yeah, I think I got it. He got hurt a little bit. in the
some
Cass Tech game.
confusion
Yeah.
at PKC.
I don't know if I
he
don't
wasn't
know
on
if it
the
was a cramp.
he wasn't on the roster that we got for the media packet.
Right, he wasn't.
The PA announcer wasn't calling his name. We didn't know what number he was.
Yeah,
it was kind of confusing.
Yeah, I just know he was down on the field for quite a while. But I think it was one of those things, first game cramps, kind of thing that happened. Maybe he got the wind, or I don't know.
But
maybe he was hurt.
According to the Horo camp,
yes,
his stats were pretty gaudy.
Yeah.
But it was hard to tell because
Yeah.
we didn't know what number we were tracking up in the box.
Another defensive end out of Zeeland East, I mentioned Adam Berghorst, the senior, and the senior linebacker from Chippewa Valley, Marcel Lewis, who is all over the field and is just somebody you got to really see. Somebody you want to pay to see. Marcel Lewis is the guy you want to pay to see. So on our watch list, Rocco Spindler, who did not disappoint, the sophomore offensive tackle out of Clarkson. They were talking about beast mode, right?
They were pushing people all over the field.
Yeah, he's huge. And, of course, Mark Spindler's son, so those who remember him. Out of Canton.
Sean remembers him.
Yes, he does.
Radio partner.
Yes, of course. Yes, he was.
Sure was.
Darius Robinson, the senior defensive end out of Canton, still on our watch list. Port Huron Northern junior defensive end, Braden McGregor. Jacob Wahlberg, the inside linebacker out of Mona Shores, the senior. Maisie Smith out of East Kentwood, the senior defensive lineman. That's what we have right now. I know we've got some other guys that we're looking at. And that's kind of where we're at right now. So, if you've got linemen that you want to recommend, linebackers you want to recommend, send it to us on all the social media platforms or email us. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Finally, kind of, guys, as we finish up the podcast, what are you really looking forward to the most this weekend? I'll start with you, Scott.
Well, I kind of mentioned it a couple minutes ago, just the contrast in styles that I'm going to see tomorrow with Lakeland and Waterford Mott going at it. You're going to get 3, 4, 5 yards and a cloud of dust from Lakeland, and then from Waterford Mott, you're going to get throwing the ball around the field, running it up the gut with Marcus Guerrero. On defense, you're going to have guys like Luciano Padini wrecking havoc. So I'm excited for that contrast.
Are you calling a game this week?
I'm not this week.
Okay, because of Wayne State?
Yeah, we'll start with the Catholic League next week, doing the Catholic League games next week. But I am really intrigued at two electrifying quarterbacks going up against two defenses that are probably going to have people specifically keyed on them. And of course, King and Muskegon. That's the one to me. Two guys that had such an unbelievable week one.
Yeah.
And as I think you brought it up, Bernie, you're going to have a hawk on both of those guys. Now, how are they going to respond? Quan Finn, been there, done that. I guess you could say in his own way Martinez has as well. But at this level, on this big stage, that's really intriguing to me.
Sure. I think what's fun about the preseason, so to speak, before you get to league play, is having these intersectional matchups, like Bernie talked about earlier, where you get a Grand Rapids Catholic Central coming to a Saline, and all the East Side schools going over the West Side, or vice versa. You get those where you get a chance to see a program that you might not see when you get into conference play, and you get to see some new people, new players, new fight songs, all of that kind of stuff. And it's just fun when you get these new matchups that don't occur all that often.
And crisscrossing divisions too, to see a Division 4 team play Division 3
Well, that's
team,
what I was going to say.
Division 2 plays Division
What's
1.
fun is that so oftentimes if get a Grand Rapids Catholic Central winning multiple state titles and they go, well, that's Division 4. Or West Catholic, well, that's Division 5. But when if they come here and they beat Division 1 Saline, well, then they're going to say, you know what, it's just football. And we line up, and just because our enrollment is lower than yours doesn't make you a more dominant football program. So we'll see how that goes. I think for me, there's a couple things that I'm really looking forward to. Number one, if Granville should come to De La Salle and win that game, not only is it totally legitimized what's going on the west side of the state,
it puts the back against the wall if you're the pilot.
Absolutely. The Catholic division, especially if, say, Orchard Lake goes and wins at East Kentwood, if Catholic Central, Detroit Catholic Central, again, playing an Ohio team that maybe is considered a really, really good team. I'm not, not up to where they're at.
I know Cleveland St. Edwards.
Winning in Ohio at any
Lakewood
point,
St. Edward.
Yeah, winning at Ohio in any case is usually a tough road to hoe. Yeah. It's going to really open that up. But again, the game, our main event this week on State Champs, Belleville, a chance to host their first game. We've got them ranked number 2. Livonia Churchill's coming in off a big win over Canton. This is going to be, if Belleville really plays to what's on paper and shows the KLAA that, hey, we've taken a punch and we pulled it out, and now we're ready to run it out. It will be real interesting. So I want to see Belleville. I want to see how they bounce back and if they have a really good game and really establish themselves as one of the premier teams in the state. Because if it's lackluster, then I think they're going to fall even further in our rankings, even with a win. So we'll see. But that's where we're at. And we're going to be doing this all season long. We love it. And we're really fired up. There, week 2, because it's also the opening college football weekend, is really one of the greatest weekends that there is. What's happening? So Sean, for those of you know, is the voice of Wayne State football. So what's up with Wayne State this week?
Thursday night game. So we're excited about that.
On the road?
No, we're at home. We have Walsh at home. So it's outstanding. And you know what? It's so fun for me. A lot of times on the weekend, you get to do the De La Salle game on a Friday and do the Wayne State game on a Saturday.
Right,
so
never leave Adams Field.
Yeah, twist my arm, right?
Yeah,
so no, this is Lauren, and I couldn't agree with you more. You're done with the NFL's version of fake football, and you're getting into the meat of the high school schedule and college football starting. Arguably the best sports weekend of the year.
Who's starting for Wayne State at quarterback? Dakota Cup?
It is going to be Dakota. It is going to be Dakota.
From the Waterford Mock Corsairs?
Yes, it's going to be – that's going to be – we use the word fluid a lot.
Yeah.
That's going to be a fluid situation. I have a feeling it's going to be a fluid situation. But right now, it's Dakota.
You got 2 Oakland County super studs in Dakota Cup and DJ Zazula from
been a
Clarkston.
starter since a freshman.
Yes.
I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
So –
Yeah,
interesting.
It is interesting. And again, this is why I encourage you guys to not just follow college football, but follow local college football, because you see a lot of these kids. And again, Lawrence Tech, their first game in 70 years here. There's some local kids that will be on that team. And definitely for the Oakland Golden Grizzlies, who are a club program, but we're national champs not too long ago. Tons of local flavor on those. You get a chance to see these kids at the next level, because we all know this. The jump from 18 to 20 in terms of your build and your your ability in a lot of cases, you're just you're a man. Yeah. And it's fun to see these guys, bigger and better in a lot of cases.
Stronger, faster, smarter.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely.
More mature in some cases.
Yeah.
But and this I assume will be, because I think I'm right. I think his eligibility is done. This will be a Jason Fracassa-less Walsh team. He is no longer the quarterback at that team, because that would have been something else if we had Jason coming in to play that game. But yeah, his college career is over.
Yeah, we saw him a couple of years ago.
Yeah. So he
set a few records.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see if Alex Malzone is going to be starting for Miami of Ohio.
The human highlight
zone. Yes,
zone.
Exactly. So there's a lot of good stuff, and one of the things I want us to do on Extra Point is talk about local performances, so we'll make sure we do that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you on Monday.